And how long have you been doing blood spatter analysis, Mr. Morgan?
Almost 12 years.
Then it's safe to say blood is your life.
Safe to say.
With Dexter returning to the big screen in 2025, many fans have speculated that he will in fact be trialed for his crimes. Considering all the things he's done and what they could possibly accuse him of, Dexter is going to need a damn good lawyer to say the least. In this video, I'm going to be ranking which fictional lawyers from all kinds of popular TV shows and movies would be able to bail Dexter out of jail, analyzing who would best represent Dexter as a client in an imaginary world. To start off, I'm going to be explaining the different complex tiers in which I will be ranking these lawyers. At the highest level, we have attorneys I believe would let Dexter walk free, meaning all charges would be dropped and that he'd be a free man. Second is individuals I think would significantly reduce his sentence, which means although he might not be denied of all charges, the time he would serve would be reduced by quite a lot. In the third tier, I have those who would put up a good fight in court, not quite changing his sentence too much, but still tried their hardest and almost helped Dexter's situation. After that, I have lawyers that I believe wouldn't change a thing whatsoever with his time in prison, not exactly putting up a good fight nor doing horribly in court, but rather mediocre. Lastly, I have the attorneys that I think would embarrass themselves in trying to defend Dexter, publicly making his case even worse than it already is. And regarding the charges that are pinned to Dexter, we would be here for 40 minutes if I had to go over everything he's done and is being accused of. For sure, let's assume they know some things regarding his years in Miami as the Bay Harbor Butcher and what he did in New Blood, meaning he's facing lots and lots of time in prison. However, it's safe to say they don't know everything in regards to what he's done. Now, without further ado, let's begin with the man himself, Harvey Specter.
Life is this. I like this.
For those who haven't watched Suits, Harvey is a pretty good lawyer who has lots of experience in the field of defending as well prosecuting for the US government. Although he does not specialize in the field of defending criminals involved with murder, he is a high-ranking corporate lawyer who defends rich scumbags at times who are indirectly guilty of killing or harming individuals/groups. With this in mind, I would put Harvey somewhere in between would significantly reduce his sentence or would put up a good fight, and here's why. Harvey Specter has a big team behind his already massive skills and expertise, meaning he could get lots of other attorneys working on the case if he really wanted to do his best to get Dexter's charges down. The issue that comes with this though is that Harvey is oftentimes not willing to defend a criminal he knows is guilty, and it would take lots of convincing from Dexter's end to explain why he did the things he's done.
The court of public opinion.
How did you just do that?
I'm a really good lawyer.
Matt Murdock is essentially a vigilante superhero by night and attorney by day. His moral values are similar to that of Batman's, where his #1 rule is that he does not kill. With this in mind, it's hard to see why he would help Dexter out in the first place, but I would have to put him in the would put up a good fight tier. Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, has actually gone through something very similar in the show in regards to him and the Punisher's relationship. The Punisher, similar to Dexter, tends to take out really bad criminals who the police have yet to catch through legal loopholes and such. However, where he differs from Daredevil is that Punisher actually kills these guys, especially when we are first introduced to him in the series. Although Murdock isn't a fan of his methods, he eventually sees his perspective, and I think something very similar could play out in how he would view Dexter, given that he's informed about his troubled past, which made him the way he essentially is. The reason why I don't think he's higher is because it's not thoroughly shown how good he really is as a lawyer and if he could really take on cases like Harvey Specter.
What are you doing, detective? What are you doing talking to my client without me present? You sneaky Pete. What'd you say to Babyface, huh? Did you say anything stupid? By anything stupid, I mean anything at all. Go grab a juice box, have a nap, go on.
Now, moving on to Jimmy McGill, aka Saul Goodman. Saul has been described as a criminal lawyer throughout Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, although not the kind of lawyer most would think. By criminal lawyer, I mean someone who sneaks around the law to get what they want in the end for both him and the client. I think we could all agree that he belongs to the would let Dexter walk free tier, and here's why. Throughout the Breaking Bad universe, we have seen numerous instances of him getting crazy charges dropped for cartel members or other known bad criminals, but where his credibility is further shown is in the finale episode of the show when he is trialed for countless charges involving conspiracy of murder and other heavy charges surrounding Walter White's Blue Sky. Saul was given initially 86 years in prison for all his heinous crimes, but ultimately managed to get it down to 7 all by himself. Although he did end up confessing, resulting in him getting his initial 86-year sentence, it goes to show how good he is as a lawyer, and I'm convinced that he would put his skills towards Dexter and possibly even get him off the Bay Harbor butcher charges as a whole.
What's up, Fletcher? Your cholesterol! Fatty! Dead man walking!
Fletcher Reede in the popular comedy movie Liar Liar was an excellent lawyer for minor cases, but would not be able to handle a serious case like Dexter Morgan's trial for murder, putting him in the would embarrass themselves tier. His characteristic reliance on manipulation and distortion of the truth would make him a liability, especially when exposed in a complex and evidence-heavy case such as this. Without the ability to create an intelligent and factual-based argument, Fletcher would crack under a well-sculpted prosecution, prepping forensic evidence of eyewitness testimonies and Dexter's suspicious activity. In the cross-examination, unprepared, he would most likely mumble over even trying to pose important questions. His inability to keep focus on the most relevant arguments and to derail under pressure would make Dexter's position worse than it already is. Hundreds of murders, tampering with evidence, and obstruction of justice are serious charges indeed, which would demand an attorney who deeply knows criminal law and how to offset overwhelming public and legal scrutiny skills Fletcher lacks. His eventual lack of professionalism and unstructured approach would mean that not only would he fail to effectively defend Dexter, but he might actually harm the case. The prosecution would exploit the inconsistencies with ease, assuring a quick and sure conviction.
The hell are you that he tells you my business?
We're married, which means I have spousal privilege. Anything he says to me stays with me. No one can make me discuss it. It's as bulletproof as lawyer-client privilege.
His wife?
Yes.
Put it in.
Kim Wexler is a sharp legal mind who would mount an impressive defense for Dexter Morgan against overwhelming evidence that he is the Bay Harbor butcher. She would go into great detail to tear apart every shred of evidence the prosecution has for inconsistencies or procedural errors, putting her in the tier of would put up a good fight just under Daredevil. She would scrutinize Dexter's arrest and the forensic trail for any breaches of due process to suppress key evidence. The courtroom would essentially be Kim's arena, where her skills would humanize Dexter with the traumatic childhood that led him to commit all those terrible actions due to the deep psychological wounds in his past rather than for pure malice. Although she wouldn't condone his crimes, she would highlight the fact that Dexter targets the worst kinds of criminals, thus he is no threat to society. Although she couldn't totally clear his name, the tireless advocacy and the strategic brilliance of Kim might spare Dexter from the harshest penalties and ensure a fair trial.
What if I told you that I consume knowledge like no one you've ever met and I've actually passed the bar?
I'd say you're full of crap.
Open it up. Read me something. Anything.
It is based on several factors,
Including the deviation of the agent from his path, the reasonable inference of agency on behalf of the plaintiff, and the nature of the damages themselves.
How did you know that?
I learned it.
Mike Ross would fall under the tier of would significantly reduce his sentence. Mike is a really brilliant lawyer, though from an unconventional background, and he would find loopholes and apply strategies in Dexter's defense. He might not be the Harvey Specter when it comes to experience with the law, but in many ways, Mike was able to think his opponents down and manipulate situations towards his advantage. With an acute memory of law knowledge, Mike would seek a way through this case with potentially lesser charges or plea deals, citing Dexter's dark past, but a character worth redeeming. While Mike might not hold the clout to spring Dexter completely, his argument would more than likely ensure that the sentence handed to him is significantly watered down. He may not walk out free, but Mike could make a strong plea for a much shorter term in prison. Lastly, Howard Hamlin would fall into the mediocre tier in terms of Dexter's defense. While Howard is a great corporate lawyer with much experience in high-pressure cases, his ability in this context would be pretty limited. Specialty is corporate law and putting up a great face for the public, not defending felons or those with such complex morals like Dexter. His approach would be methodical, but without the depth or aggressive strategies needed to challenge the overwhelming evidence against Dexter. Howard might try to defend Dexter on technical grounds of law or using procedural arguments, but his skills are not good enough to bring down the charges significantly or alter the outcome. He would not be able to understand the profound ethical implications of Dexter's actions, which would make the task of humanizing Dexter and pleading for a lightened sentence very hard to do. As a result, Howard would not commit any serious downturns towards Dexter's case, but his work would be lackluster and fail to change how harsh the time in prison would be. Now, although I believe these rankings are somewhat accurate, they do of course have contradictions, possibly leaving some of these lawyers to be ranked differently. It's difficult to be 100% accurate because of Dexter being such a complex character that has done so many things based on this difficult ethical dilemma. Most of my rankings were not entirely based on certainty, and I will admit that there's slight bias when it comes to the list, like most rankings tend to have. If you made it to the end of the video, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribed, and as well leave any comments of criticism down below. Do you agree with this ranking? What would you change? And who would you like to see the most defend Dexter's complicated case? Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.